Your home is supposed to be your safe haven, a place where you control the environment and feel secure. Then there are these people who somehow turned their own houses into escape rooms they couldn't solve. These are real stories about people who proved that the biggest threat to home security might be the homeowner themselves. 1. Marcus decided to install a high-tech smart lock on his front door with facial recognition and a 6-digit code he was sure he'd never forget. The system worked perfectly until Marcus shaved off his beard and couldn't remember if his birthday code included the year or just the month and day. He spent 14 hours trapped in his own house as the facial recognition failed to identify his clean-shaven face, and every number combination triggered longer security lockouts. Marcus eventually had to call a locksmith, who charged him $400 to bypass the security system he'd installed to protect himself from intruders. 2. Installation of a new bathroom door seemed simple until Jennifer upgraded to a privacy lock with a more secure mechanism. She tested the new lock from inside and discovered it worked too perfectly. The mechanism jammed and wouldn't release no matter how much she twisted or pulled. Jennifer spent 6 hours trapped in her bathroom, surviving on sink water and screaming through the small window until neighbors called police. Firefighters had to remove the entire door to free Jennifer from her bathroom prison. 3. A brilliant security idea struck Robert when he installed motion sensor locks on all interior doors to prevent intruders from moving through his house undetected. The system required specific hand gesture sequences to unlock each door, which Robert practiced until he could navigate like a ninja. Everything worked until Robert caught a cold, and his sneezing disrupted the precise timing, causing all locks to activate simultaneously and trap him in his living room. He spent 2 days surviving on stale crackers until a friend called police for a wellness check. 4. Home improvement enthusiasm led Patricia to replace all door handles with vintage antique hardware from estate sales, convinced old craftsmanship was more reliable than modern doorknobs. The antique handles looked beautiful but operated on different principles than contemporary locks. When Patricia couldn't open her bedroom door from inside, she discovered 1920s hardware required techniques she didn't know. She spent the night trapped, eventually breaking her bedroom window to climb down from the second floor and injuring her ankle in the process. 5. Energy conservation became an obsession for David when he sealed every air leak in his house using weather stripping, caulk, and plastic sheeting to create maximum efficiency. His project was so thorough he created an airtight environment that depleted oxygen and increased carbon dioxide to dangerous levels. David felt dizzy but couldn't open windows or doors because they were sealed with industrial-strength materials. He eventually had to break a window to breathe and discovered extreme efficiency can create life-threatening situations. 6. Testing his home automation system, Michael programmed all doors, windows, and appliances for voice commands, convinced a fully automated house represented the future. The system worked until Michael developed laryngitis and couldn't speak clearly enough for recognition. His weakened voice triggered security protocols that locked all access points, and he spent 4 days trapped, unable to speak clearly enough to unlock doors or disable security while surviving on snack foods. 7. Security concerns led Karen to install multiple deadbolts, chains, and bars on all doors and windows, creating an impenetrable fortress with a detailed checklist for the unlocking sequence. Everything worked until Karen misplaced her checklist and couldn't remember the order for disabling the mechanisms she'd installed. She became trapped inside her security fortress, unable to unlock the complex series she'd created to keep others out, and had to call police to escape her own system. 8. Renovating his kitchen, James replaced the standard door with a sliding pocket door for space and modern aesthetics. Installation seemed successful until the door slid closed, but wouldn't reopen due to misaligned tracks. With no other exit except a high, small window, James spent 12 hours trapped in his kitchen, eating through refrigerator contents while trying desperate methods to force the door open, eventually calling his brother to remove it from outside. 9. Child safety became priority when Sandra installed child-proof locks on every cabinet, drawer, and door, preparing for future family visits despite having no children. The mechanisms were so effective, Sandra couldn't operate them herself, finding herself trapped in various rooms as child-proof locks prevented door opening. Her attempts to disable them activated additional features she hadn't known existed, eventually requiring a professional consultant to remove devices that made her house child-safe but adult inaccessible. 10. Winter preparation inspired Thomas to seal windows with plastic sheeting and insulation, but his weatherization created a sealed environment with no ventilation. The industrial adhesive bonded permanently to frames, and Thomas couldn't remove weatherization when needing fresh air. His house became increasingly stuffy, but everything was sealed shut. He eventually had to cut holes in his weatherproofing to prevent suffocation, defeating his energy conservation purpose. 11. Smart home technology fascinated Lisa when she installed integrated management controlling lighting, temperature, doors, and security through central computer interface. A power outage reset programming and activated backup protocols that locked all access points. When power returned, backup security required administrative passwords she'd never recorded, and override attempts triggered additional measures. She spent 3 days trying to hack her own system until calling installers to reset everything. 12. Bathroom renovation seemed straightforward until Gary had to remove the door to fit his new bathtub through the narrow doorway. He planned immediate reinstallation, but discovered the bathtub prevented proper door closure. Gary found himself trapped in a bathroom with a beautiful tub, but no functional door. Unable to leave because it wouldn't close, and unable to stay without privacy. He lived in his bathroom for 2 days while contractors modified the setup. 13. Security paranoia led Monica to install multiple alarm systems with overlapping coverage, creating conflicting zones throughout her home. When Monica accidentally triggered one system while disarming another, all systems activated simultaneously, locking down her house while summoning police, fire, and private security. She was trapped inside while emergency responders gathered outside, unable to disable multiple systems or convince authorities she was the homeowner. 14. Home gym installation required Brian to move heavy exercise equipment into his basement, not realizing assembled pieces were too large for the stairs. Brian spent weeks creating an elaborate gym, then discovered he was trapped because equipment blocked the only exit. He could work out extensively but couldn't leave without disassembling everything he'd set up, eventually living in his basement until contractors modified his exit. 15. Artistic inspiration struck Helen when she painted murals on all interior walls, but her enthusiasm led to painting over door frames, switches, and handles. The thick, artistic paint made door handles non-functional and frames sealed shut. Helen found herself trapped in various rooms as improvements eliminated home navigation functionality, forcing her to scrape paint off hardware to restore basic accessibility. 16. Energy efficiency motivated Steve to install multiple insulation layers in walls, floors, and ceilings, but he accidentally insulated over electrical systems, plumbing, and ventilation. The super-insulated house became uncomfortably warm and stuffy, but Steve couldn't access climate controls or open windows sealed behind insulation. He was trapped in an over-insulated house feeling like a giant foam cooler with no temperature or air quality control. 17. Cleaning supplies created problems when Dorothy deep cleaned, using multiple chemical products simultaneously, not realizing combinations could create dangerous fumes. Chemical mixtures filled her house with toxic vapors, but she'd sealed windows and doors to contain smells. She found herself trapped with dangerous vapors, unable to ventilate because she'd sealed too thoroughly, eventually breaking windows to escape while calling poison control. 18. Furniture rearrangement became major optimization when Leonard moved everything to efficient positions, accidentally blocking doors, windows, and essential systems. Heavy furniture prevented normal movement, and Leonard discovered he'd created a maze trapping him in his living room. He couldn't move furniture alone or reach doors and phones because optimal arrangement eliminated pathways through his house. 19. Pest control efforts led Rita to seal every entry point using steel wool, caulking, and expanding foam to eliminate gaps around doors, windows, and utilities. Her pest proofing eliminated air circulation and emergency exits, creating a sealed environment, keeping pests out but trapping her inside. Rita couldn't open doors or windows sealed with pest materials, and her house became uncomfortable with reduced air quality. 20. Technology upgrades inspired Walter to install automated systems for every function: toilets, faucets, doors operating on proximity detection. Everything worked until software glitches caused simultaneous malfunctions, trapping Walter where nothing responded normally. Automatic doors wouldn't open, Sensors wouldn't activate, and he couldn't operate anything manually because everything was controlled by malfunctioning automation he couldn't override. 21. Garage organization became obsession when Donna installed elaborate automated storage retrieving items from high shelves and enclosed areas. The system sealed items in climate-controlled compartments, opening only through electronic controls. When malfunctioning, Donna was trapped because her exit door used the same electronic system managing storage. She couldn't override controls manually or leave through the automatic door, sealed by malfunctioning storage management. 22. Swimming pool safety motivated Eugene to install multiple barriers, alarms, and locking mechanisms, but his comprehensive system trapped him inside the pool enclosure. Safety barriers kept unauthorized people away, but Eugene forgot access codes and found himself trapped inside his pool area. He spent 6 hours in his security enclosure, eventually jumping his own safety fence to escape the system he'd created. 23. Home office renovation required soundproofing for quiet workspace, but Clarence's project created isolation with no outside communication ability. The soundproof office was perfectly quiet but completely cut off, and he couldn't hear phones, doorbells, or emergency alarms. When family tried reaching him during emergencies, they couldn't penetrate soundproofing, and Clarence had no idea people were trying to contact him. 24. Security lighting seemed smart until Phyllis installed motion-activated lights with sensitive settings, creating strobing effects throughout her house whenever she moved. Sensitive detection caused continuous flashing as she walked, making navigation impossible. She couldn't adjust settings because the control panel required walking through multiple sensor zones, triggering overwhelming strobe effects, trapping her between darkness and unbearable strobing. 25. Plumbing upgrades led Harvey to install new shutoff valves throughout his house, but he created a complex system he couldn't operate. When minor leaks required shutting off water, Harvey couldn't remember which valves controlled what, and attempts to isolate problems shut off all water. He was trapped without running water, unable to restore plumbing because he'd created a system too complex to understand. 26. Electrical work seemed manageable when Marvin upgraded his home system with additional circuits, outlets, and switches. His improvements created interfering circuits, causing unpredictable power failures. Marvin couldn't determine which circuits controlled what, and restoration attempts resulted in shorts eliminating power unpredictably. He was trapped with unreliable electrical systems he'd created but couldn't control safely. 27. Fire safety became priority when Gladys installed smoke detectors, extinguishers, and emergency exits, but her comprehensive system accidentally created protocols preventing normal access. Emergency systems designed to seal areas during fires were triggered by routine activities, causing lockdown mode sealing all exits. She was trapped inside her fire safety system, unable to override protocols designed to protect, but instead imprisoning her. 28. Ventilation improvements motivated Norma to install exhaust fans, circulation systems, and filtration for optimal air quality. Her system was so powerful it created pressure differentials, preventing doors and windows from opening normally. Forced air circulation created imbalances, sealing doors shut and making windows impossible to open, trapping Norma with excellent air quality but no exit ability. 29. Storage solutions inspired Gilbert to install built-in cabinets, closets, and compartments throughout his house, but extensive installation eliminated normal pathways and room access. Built-in systems maximized efficiency, but created obstacles preventing movement through rooms and hallways. Gilbert was trapped in various areas because storage installations blocked doorways and created dead ends that couldn't be navigated without removing permanent fixtures. 30. Carpet installation became major when Edith decided on wall-to-wall carpeting throughout her entire house, including bathrooms, kitchens, and utility rooms. Comprehensive carpeting looked luxurious, but created safety hazards when surfaces became slippery in wet areas and trapped moisture. Edith was trapped on dangerous slippery surfaces, unable to remove professionally installed glued carpeting that made her home unsafe for navigation. 31. Insulation projects led Wilbur to install multiple types in walls, attics, and basements for optimal temperature control. His comprehensive installation accidentally insulated over electrical panels, plumbing access, and ventilation controls essential for maintenance. When systems required service, Wilbur couldn't access controls sealed behind insulation, trapping him in a well-insulated house with inaccessible utilities. 32. Security cameras seemed smart until Hazel installed so many throughout her house that monitoring created information overload, preventing understanding of actual happenings. Multiple feeds showed overlapping views, creating confusing surveillance, making navigation difficult without triggering alerts. Hazel was trapped by surveillance generating so many false alarms she couldn't determine real problems versus normal activities misinterpreted by oversensitive equipment. 33. Soundproofing became obsession when Lloyd eliminated noise transmission between rooms with comprehensive sound barriers. His effective project created isolated rooms with no acoustic communication between areas, making household coordination impossible. Lloyd was trapped in acoustic isolation, unable to hear emergency signals, calls, or other members, creating safety hazards from complete sound elimination. 34. Automation systems fascinated Gladys when she programmed controls for every function: lighting, temperature, water, door locks operating on complex efficiency schedules. Programming was so comprehensive she couldn't override automatic systems when manual control was needed. She was trapped by automated systems controlling her house according to schedules, not accounting for unexpected situations, unable to manually operate functions controlled by programming she couldn't modify. 35. Weatherproofing motivated Marvin to seal against all weather conditions with storm shutters, barriers, and protective systems for severe weather. His comprehensive weatherproofing accidentally created permanent protection that couldn't be removed during normal conditions, trapping him inside a house sealed against weather, but also against normal access. Marvin couldn't open shutters or remove barriers designed for temporary use. 36. Electrical safety inspired Bernice to install circuit interrupters, surge protectors, and safety switches preventing electrical hazards. But comprehensive improvements created systems shutting down automatically from minor variations. Safety systems were so sensitive that normal usage triggered shutdowns, eliminating power to essential systems, trapping Bernice with extensive safety features, preventing normal electrical operation. 37. Plumbing improvements led Harvey to install filtration, pressure regulation, and flow control optimizing water quality and delivery. But upgrades created complex systems requiring constant adjustment and maintenance. Harvey couldn't operate improved plumbing without technical knowledge, and adjustment attempts resulted in failures eliminating water access unpredictably. He was trapped with sophisticated systems providing excellent quality when working, but requiring engineering expertise. 38. Heating upgrades motivated Agnes to install multiple zones, programmable thermostats, and climate controls maintaining optimal temperatures in different areas simultaneously. Sophisticated improvements required complex programming and coordination to operate effectively. Agnes couldn't adjust heating manually when automatic programming didn't account for changing conditions, trapped with advanced climate control working perfectly when programmed correctly, but uncontrollable when manual intervention was needed. 39. Security improvements inspired Stanley to install multiple locking systems, access controls, and entry barriers, creating comprehensive security against unauthorized entry. But extensive systems created barriers preventing authorized entry and exit by the homeowner. Stanley's improvements kept intruders out but were so effective they trapped the homeowner inside, unable to override security requiring complex procedures he couldn't remember. 40. Ventilation upgrades led Evelyn to install air exchange systems, filtration, and circulation fans, maintaining optimal indoor air quality, but improvements created airflow patterns, interfering with normal door and window operation. Sophisticated ventilation created pressure effects preventing doors from opening normally, and making windows difficult to operate, trapping Evelyn with excellent air quality but limited exit ability. 41. Storage optimization became major when Melvin maximized capacity with floor-to-ceiling systems throughout his house. But extensive improvements eliminated normal room access and navigation pathways. Comprehensive storage provided enormous capacity, but created physical obstacles preventing movement through rooms and hallways, trapping Melvin in spaces between systems that couldn't be navigated without removing permanent installations. 42. Fire safety systems seemed essential when Bertha installed suppression equipment, emergency lighting, and evacuation systems ensuring optimal protection. But comprehensive systems created emergency protocols, activating during normal household activities. Fire safety equipment responded automatically to potential conditions, but systems were so sensitive that cooking, cleaning, or normal activities triggered suppression, making her house temporarily uninhabitable. 43. Insulation improvements motivated Walter to install comprehensive thermal barriers optimizing energy efficiency, but thorough projects created thermal isolation, interfering with normal ventilation and air circulation. Extensive insulation provided excellent temperature control but eliminated natural air exchange, essential for healthy indoor quality, trapping Walter in well-insulated houses with stagnant air, becoming uncomfortable and unhealthy. 44. Technology integration became obsession when Dolores connected all home systems to centralized computer control coordinating lighting, security, climate, and utilities through integrated programming, optimizing efficiency and convenience. Integrated systems worked perfectly when technology functioned correctly, but computer glitches caused coordinated failures affecting multiple functions simultaneously. Dolores was trapped by integrated systems, creating cascading failures affecting everything at once, unable to operate basic functions when computers malfunctioned. 45. And finally, comprehensive home improvement became the ultimate project when Harold upgraded every aspect simultaneously: electrical, plumbing, heating, cooling, security, automation, and safety systems, creating the perfect modern home. Harold's total renovation was so extensive that all systems became interdependent, requiring coordination between multiple complex systems for basic functionality. When one system malfunctioned, cascading effects disabled others, trapping Harold inside a house with advanced systems for everything, but no ability to operate basic functions when integrated systems failed to coordinate properly. His perfect modern home became a high-tech prison where every convenience had become so sophisticated and interdependent that failures eliminated normal living ability, proving advanced improvements can create basic problems when technology becomes too complex for homeowners to control. Here's what these home entrapment disasters teach us. The biggest threat to your home security might not be burglars. It might be your own home improvement projects. These stories prove that there's a fine line between making your home better and making your home uninhabitable. And that line is usually crossed by people who solve simple problems with complicated solutions. The real lesson isn't about avoiding home improvements. It's about remembering that your house should work for you, not trap you inside it. Subscribe for more proof that sometimes the best home security system is a regular door that opens when you turn the handle.